It is Friday, January 6th. In the headlines in local news, Tourism Minister Ed Bartlett confirms tourism is the fastest rebounding industry since COVID-19 pandemic. In business news, Massey Distribution implements paternity leave. Regionally, COVID subvariant XBB.1.5 is not new to the Caribbean. Internationally, UK's Prince Harry details fight with his brother in new book. And in sports, we take a look at some highlights from the Pakistan versus New Zealand second test day 5. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I am Maya Chang. Tourism Minister Ed Bartlett says the tourism industry is bouncing back and it is going to continue. He spoke to the impact of the recession and had this to say.
So what's your feeling about the world? What's the state of the world at tourism post-COVID?
Tourism is bouncing back. It's the fastest growing of all the industries since COVID. And it is going to continue to grow. The impact of the recession will definitely reduce the rate of growth. Certainly from Asia, where the recession is going to be seen more visible and more felt. But certainly in the West, North America, UK, elements of Europe, we are going to see continued growth. Because there is a pent-up demand,
absolutely,
which is still not fully released. And the airlines and everybody are still having difficulty with supply chain issues. So the meeting of that demand is going to be, elongated. So we are not likely to see a significant falloff from tourism growth coming out of COVID. We certainly will take a longer time to get back to 2019 levels.
Yes, sir.
But we certainly will see a level of improvement.
You are obviously one of the known figures worldwide, internationally for tourism, and you have played a key role in making Jamaica one of the top tourist destinations in the world. What can Africa, cities and states learn from what you have been able to accomplish for Jamaica?
It's a very interesting question because on the 17th of February, 15th, 16th, 17th of February, we're going to be having the first ever Africa-Caribbean Tourism Convergence. And so ministers from Africa, tourism ministers, airlines are going to be in Jamaica. Also, we're expecting the chairman of the Africa Exim Bank to make a presentation since they've just earmarked $1.5 billion for investment in the Caribbean. And looking at how both the Caribbean and Africa can now collaborate to drive tourism. We think that we are the diaspora of Africa, and therefore it's an opportunity for what we call the reverse diaspora, where we who have grown tourism, and we are experts really in tourism in this side of the world, can offer to Africa a benefit in this regard. So it's a very exciting moment, and it's good that you asked the question, even if you didn't know, but it is true, we are making the steps to build the relationship and to enable Africa to benefit from the expertise and skills and experience of its diaspora here in the Americas.
The government is looking to facilitate face-to-face engagements with students in their schools to educate them on the consequences of gang involvement and participating in gun crimes and other illegal activities. This was announced by Prime Minister Andrew Holness while speaking during the Heal the Family, Heal the Nation conference at the National Arena in Kingston on Wednesday, January 4. The conference coincided with the 3rd annual National Day of Prayer. Carla Thomas Hewitt tells us more.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness informed that since the passage of the new Firearms Prohibition, Restriction and Regulation Act last November, 80 persons have been arrested for illegal gun possession. He said among them is a 15-year-old youth who is potentially facing a minimum imprisonment of 15 years. The Prime Minister pointed out that there are many cases with 15 and 14-year-olds who have killed and are not only charged with possession, but murder. Mr. Holness emphasized that while the society has to draw the line and send a strong signal, it is also the government's duty to ensure that youth are properly informed. Mr. Holness added that it is the intention of the government to launch out, starting with Jamaica schools, because that is where authorities can have all the students congregated, with the intention being to get to every classroom in Jamaica. The Prime Minister pledged that he will be part of it to go and visit the schools and explain to the youngsters the consequences. For the news on PBCJ, I am Carla Thomas Hewitt.
The Transport Authority will begin motor vehicle examinations on Monday, January 9, in preparation for the renewal of road licenses that expire on March 31, 2023. The early commencement of examinations is to facilitate the timely submission of road license applications come February 1, 2023, which is the start of the 2023-2024 road licensing period. In a statement from the authority, it was explained that the early start of motor vehicle examination is also part of the entity's thrust to provide convenient and efficient service to customers. The statement indicated that under this facility, licensees are not required to pay the motor vehicle examination fees upfront, as the fees will be collected upon submission of their applications for renewal of their road licenses. The Transport Authority is also encouraging customers to take advantage of the online application process using their debit or credit cards to avoid congregating at its offices. Customers can also request the delivery service being offered. In the authority's statement, it was explained that the public passenger vehicle PPV operators and applicants must meet the approved Transport Authority standards and requirements in order to receive a road license. These include color coding, exterior markings, and vehicle age requirements, the release stated. For further details, persons may contact the authority toll-free on 1-888-991-5687, customer care 618-0959, or visit the website at www.ta.org.jm. Scores of educational institutions and community groups are lauding the Digicel Foundation for providing grants valued at $28 million to do upgrading work and to establish income-generating projects. The foundation recently provided the funds under its community development program as part of its celebration of 18 years of giving back to communities in all 14 parishes and to give recognition to dedicated persons who are engaged in community building. The Digicel Community Development Program seeks to work with grassroots organizations to build Jamaica together, making real investments in communities through grants of up to $2 million for development projects with a focus on educational institutions, upgrade of community centers, development of agriculture, and other areas. For the Old Folly Youth Club and Community Club based in the parish of St. Anne, they will be using their $1 million grant to expand their poultry enterprise with the acquisition of pluckers and freezers. The club also plans to renovate its fowl coop facility. Chief Executive Officer, CEO of the foundation, Charmaine Daniels, said the organization has been doing community work since its inception in 2004 and continues to build Jamaica one community at a time in all parishes. In Kingston, the Denham Town High School will use its $2 million grant to aid its literacy remedial program for students. The grant will assist with the renovation of reading rooms and to get digital equipment and the teaching and learning experience needed. The project is expected to impact 1,200 students at the inner city school. Social development consultant with the foundation, Miguel Stepper Williams, said groups applying for the grants should register with the Social Development Commission (SDC), the Rural Agricultural Development Authority (RADA), and seek to partner with the community development communities in their areas. Chairperson of the foundation, Jean Lowry Chin, said 245 bids were received from around the island. She noted that over the past 18 years, the foundation has touched the lives of 748,000 Jamaicans. And it's now time for the business report with Danita Rodney.
Massey Distribution is among the first Jamaican private sector organizations to adopt a paternity leave policy into their human resource plan for 2023. The new policy change, which took effect on January 1, is in tandem with the government of Jamaica's move to allow paid paternity leave for public sector workers. At Massey, fathers will benefit from 25 paid working days of leave, 5 more than announced by the Minister of Finance for fathers employed in the public sector. Now for your market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Thursday, January 5, the US dollar sold for an average of $153.36. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $112.55. The pound sterling traded for $183.54, and the euro sold for $154.97. In JSE trading, the JSE index declined by 1,737 points. The junior market index advanced by 19 points. The combined market index declined by 1,440 points, and the All Jamaican Composite Index declined by 2,146 points. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 116 stocks, of which 50 advanced, 45 declined, and 21 traded firm. Stocks advanced for Access Financial Services Limited, AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, and Berger Paints Jamaica Limited. Stocks declined for Barita Investments Limited, Cargo Handlers Limited, and Caribbean Producers Jamaica Limited. Trading firm 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, CAC 2000 9.5% cumulative redeemable preference shares, and Caribbean Cream Limited. The overall volume leaders were Wigton Wind Farm Limited Ordinary Shares, Trans Jamaican Highway Limited, and Dollar Financial Services Limited with over 1 million units. In regional stocks, on the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange, 0 securities traded. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, First Caribbean International Bank was the sole security trading 106 shares. In regional business, St. Kitts and Nevis is set to benefit from a partnership with the Afrexim Bank. More in this SKN report.
One of the core elements of the St. Kitts and Nevis Labour Party-led government is their intent to establish the Federation as a leading small island sustainable state. From all indicators, this moment in time is perhaps the best opportunity to begin the process, with a number of positives going for the Federation. Among these are progress in the geothermal energy development on Nevis and the recent signing of a partnership agreement with Afrexim Bank and several CARICOM member countries. In a meeting between Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew and Mr. Rene Awamben in September of 2022, the global head of client relations for Afrexim Bank and other members of the organization discussed various projects for St. Kitts and Nevis. Now, St. Kitts and Nevis has to ratify the CARICOM Afrexim Bank agreement, just as the bank approved over $1 billion for the CARICOM region. A recent press release from the Prime Minister's press secretary stated in part, quote, the US $1.5 billion financing approved by the Board of Directors of Afrexim Bank enables CARICOM member countries to access the bank's financing instruments through financing facilities that support various identified economic sectors, including tourism, healthcare, renewable energy, shipping, mining, agriculture and agribusiness, air links, and aquaculture. Afrexim Bank will also work to support local financial institutions to source finance for small and medium business enterprises, SMEs, end quote. From various comments by the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, they have particular interest in assessing these funds to support agriculture and fisheries development, energy infrastructure, and enhancing significantly the country's export potential. Glenn Barth reporting for SK Newsline.
In international business, Samsung Electronics' quarterly profit fell to an 8-year low as a weakening global economy hammered memory chip prices and curbed demand for electronic devices. More in this Reuters report.
Samsung Electronics' quarterly profit tumbled by 2/3 to an 8-year low in weaker than expected preliminary results on Friday, as a flagging global economy hammered memory chip prices and curbed demand for electronic devices. It was Samsung's smallest quarterly profit since the third quarter of 2014. The dismal estimate is a bellwether for global consumer demand. Samsung's profits are expected to shrink again in the current quarter, analysts said, with a glut driving a further drop in memory chip prices. The South Korean company, the world's largest memory chip, smartphone and TV maker, announced its October to December operating profit likely fell 69% to 4.3 trillion won, or $3.37 billion, from 13.87 trillion won a year earlier. Rising global interest rates and the cost of living have not only dampened demand for smartphones and other devices, but also for the semiconductors Samsung supplies to rivals such as Apple. The firm said in the statement the fall in demand was greater than expected. Despite that, Samsung shares closed 1.4% higher on Friday. One analyst said that was because investors hoped Samsung would have to reduce production, which would help the memory industry overall. Industry watchers also say the firm can use its deep pockets during this downturn to maintain its investment plans and expand market share.
In market data for oil prices rebalanced after an early $1 rally as a stronger dollar and weaker economic outlook weighed while hopes of a Chinese demand boost limited losses. Brent crude futures fell 24 cents to $78.45 a barrel, and West Texas Intermediate crude futures were down 24 cents at $73.43. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In regional news, in Belize, the $5 minimum wage took effect on January 1, and Minister of State in the Ministry of Finance, Christopher Coy, shared his view on the minimum wage adjustment during a period of inflation.
There was a minimum wage task force, of which the Chamber was a member of that task force, and they made their recommendations. I think the Ministry of Labor also had engaged a consultant to assist in what process would be undertaken to implement the minimum wage adjustment. It was a Plan Belize manifesto commitment. Yep. Just how it would be implemented was not spoken of in the manifesto. So that type of engagement was taken on and consultation taken on. But ultimately, the Ministry of Labor made its recommendation and Cabinet made its decision. There are economic views with respect to the extent and the approach taken, and we can have certainly discussions on that all day long. You might be surprised where my position is on it. But certainly that decision has been taken. Mm-hmm. The reality is, on a fiscal, from a fiscal standpoint, it is what you would call an inflationary action. Mm-hmm. In a time of high inflation. Mm-hmm. So the jury is out as to what will be the impact of the implementation of that adjustment. And that's, I think, what the Chamber has spoken to their representatives and say we have to wait and see what will be the impact. But yes, that is timing-wise a concern as far as its implementation and the dramatic implementation.
In Trinidad and Tobago, a number of changes to safety policies and procedures have been made at the Paria Fuel Trading Company following the tragic incident which claimed the lives of 4 divers in February 2022. This and more was revealed while members of Paria's Health and Safety Department were questioned during Thursday's sitting of the Commission of Inquiry.
The Paria Fuel Trading Company has made several changes to operating procedures, according to HSE Coordinator Paul Yearwood. During his testimony on Thursday morning, he revealed a number of changes in relation to rescue plans and diving. It was revealed during Wednesday's hearing that Paria did not have the expertise to determine risk-associated and job safety analysis for this specific job, laying that responsibility on contractor LMCS Limited.
Right, so we have done extensive retraining with regards to the permit work system. We will have developed a terms of reference for the development of ERPs and issued it to all contractors. We would have had the process of the review being more rigorous. We would have specifically considered diving. And it's not specific to the HSE department, but to the entire Paria. And we have had subsequent dives.
Diving?
Where we have engaged specialists to look at the documents.
Specialists have looked at the documents,
subsequent.
Meanwhile, HSEQ lead at Paria, Randolph Archibald, expressed that there was no dive plan, formal or informal, to conduct rescue operations of the 4 trapped divers. He said the incident management team provided all the resources needed to facilitate LMCS divers in the pipeline. However, he noted that there was no expression of interest following commercial diver Michael Kerban's dive by any other divers to go into the pipeline.
I don't know what the divers were thinking. What I do know is that none came forward to say, I am going to dive. At least that is the evidence we have.
None came forward to say they were willing to dive.
That's right.
That's really the position. No one said, I am willing to dive in that pipe.
That is correct.
Including Mr. Kerban, including Mr. Farah, including Mr. Beddoe and his brother. None of those people said, I am willing to dive in that pipe.
On that night, as far as we're aware, yes.
The Commission of Inquiry continues on Friday, live on TTT. Ayana Carter, TTT News.
In Barbados, the COVID-19 subvariant XBB.1.5, which is affecting people in the United States, is not new to the Caribbean region. Director of the Caribbean Public Health Agency, CARPHA, Dr. Joy St. John, told CBC News her agency tested for and isolated that variant since last year. She added that the viruses which are of concern now are other respiratory illnesses and not COVID-19.
For the Caribbean, that is not new. That has been circulating in our region for several months since last year. What is happening is that there is a focus on that particular subvariant of Omicron because it is becoming the cause of more and more cases in the US. But it's been circulating for some time, and it is not a cause, at least not in the Caribbean, of severe cases, hospitalizations, and deaths. Although there have been severe cases, hospitalizations, and deaths of respiratory illness, it's not usually caused by COVID. There are other viruses that have been circulating that have been causing issues towards the latter half of 2022, and especially in the final quarter of 2022, but not really COVID. Yes, COVID is circulating. Yes, you may be having mild cases, but not ones that are normally ending up in hospital or acute care or intensive care setting, as we had during that really bad bout with Delta. There is the regular PCR testing. We're not getting much of that. We haven't been getting much of that for months because more and more countries have their own capacity.
In international news, Prince Harry accuses his brother of physical abuse in 2019 in his new book titled Spare, soon to be released.
Yeah, so anticipation has really been ramping up, I think, over the last few months ahead of this book being released. We, of course, knew that the title was going to be Spare. We've had that Netflix docuseries. And people have been wondering exactly how far Prince Harry would go when it came to writing down his recollections and what he has wanted to share. But the claims that we're hearing from this leaked copy are quite extraordinary when it comes to the breakdown in the relationship that he had with his brother. Now, it's worth saying that the book, the review copies, aren't due out until Monday. They're not due to be released into the public until Tuesday, and yet the Guardian seem to have had a copy in advance. Now, I'll just read to you some of what it says in this Guardian article in terms of this altercation, which it seems happened, or Prince Harry claims happened back in 2019. He says that it was all to do with William basically calling Meghan abrasive, rude, and difficult. He then writes that William came into their home at Nottingham Cottage. Harry gave him a glass of water and said, "Willie, I can't speak to you when you're like this." Harry then writes, "He set down the water, called me another name, then came at me. It all happened so fast, so very fast. He grabbed me by the collar, ripping my necklace, and he knocked me to the floor. I landed on the dog's bowl, which cracked under my back, the pieces cutting into me. I lay there for a moment, dazed, then got to my feet and told him to get out." Now, they are very serious allegations. This morning I have reached out to 2 people at Kensington Palace for any comment. So far, haven't heard anything back from them. We know that in 2019, that relationship between the 2 brothers was falling apart, not simply because of those leaked reports, which Harry has repeatedly talked about in the Netflix documentary, and these interviews that are due to be released on Sunday with the likes of Anderson Cooper for CBS and Tom Bradby for ITV, but also because Harry himself in a documentary talked about how he wasn't getting on with his brother. So it's not unexpected to hear that the brothers were not getting on in 2019, but
And in sports today, we take a look at some highlights from the Pakistan versus New Zealand second test, day 5.
4 days of hard-fought cricket, and we are down to day number 5. All 3 results possible, maybe even 4. KFC presents Dapper News Pakistan New Zealand Test Series. It is day number 5, and both sides every opportunity to take the spoils in this test. Last ball of Ish Sodi's over after picking up that wicket. Edged, and I think it's gone through the gap and down. First runs on the board. Oh, lovely. Really nice quality from Imam. Oh, it's very close. Might have been just outside the line, I think. Oh, it's just flirted with the outside edge. Oh, another good drive, but Henry gets a good hand on that as well. And there it is. Well done, Sean. You've just got yourself 10,000 Pakistan rupee. 15 for 2.
And that's the news on PBCJ. I am Maya Chung. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. Thanks for watching.